Coming up on The Buck Stops Here.
Right now, of any time in human history, is probably the best time to start a new small business because of artificial intelligence. Breaks create speed. It's counterintuitive, but the reality of it is you can stop very quickly. You can afford to go much faster. Do not feed your special sauce into publicly available artificial intelligence, because when you do that, you have literally given it away to other people. In an age of artificial intelligence, it may be the biggest advantage that you have. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Buck Stops Here. This episode is entitled, Why Being Small is Your Superpower. It's about your advantage in an age of AI. Hi, I'm your host, David Maples, and today what we're going to talk about is if you're running a business or a startup, that your hustle, for lack of a better word, is probably the reason you're here in the first place. It's the reason you're listening to this podcast. It's probably the reason you decided to start your business. And for a lot of small businesses, one of the challenges is the very fact that they are small. However, what I'm going to suggest to you today is that in an age of AI, maybe being small is in fact your hidden superpower. Maybe it is the reason that you can survive and indeed thrive in the age of AI. Maybe everything you've done to this moment in your life has led up to this point. And my premise of this episode is that right now, of any time in human history, is probably the best time to start a new small business because of artificial intelligence. Let's be honest about the things that happen in your business. In any small business, one of the challenges you run into is you have two items that are always in short supply. They're your time and your money. They're always a problem. And you as a founder, if you're a small business, if you're a startup or a small business, if you have less than 10 people, I always consider most companies under 10 people to be a startup. But the challenge with it is there's a bottleneck. The bottleneck's you, your people, it's the time is what it really comes down to. And the other challenge with it is that you don't necessarily have the money that is required to grow your business in a very big way. So it's the kind of the old adage of you work so hard in your business that you can't work on your business. You're wearing so many hats and everything each has its own required amount of effort that the very thing that maybe got you started in the beginning might in fact actually be slowing you down right now. And it's easy when you get in that mindset and that mode to look at the big companies and say, I'm really just outgunned. I'm outnumbered. I'm outgunned. They've got everything. How can I possibly make this happen in my business? And what I'm suggesting to you today is about changing your perspective. You were looking at it all wrong. And the reality of it is that those big companies you looked up to are the equivalent of aircraft carriers. They're cargo containers. They're these giant monoliths that obviously it took them a long time to build, but they also take a very long time to adapt or to change. They're heavy. They're full of inertia. They can't turn real fast. They can't change what they're doing. They can't change things on a dime. And they have resources. And but the funny thing is that like right now, if you decided to do something in your company today, you could decide that before you finish a sentence. With large companies, they have committees who have committees to talk about maybe meeting to discuss the thing that they need to do. The reality of it is that you don't have those constraints. It might take them 6 months to approve using a new tool or doing something else, but you, because of your side, are kind of the equivalent of a speedboat, for lack of a better term. You can turn on a dime, you can do things. You may not have the size, but you don't have the inertia either. You can make choices and change things. And it turns out that is a strategic advantage. If you make a decision today about buying a piece of software, you can have it running by tomorrow or the end of the week. And in an age of artificial intelligence, it may be the biggest advantage that you have because the markets aren't really they're not rewarding stuff like they used to. They're rewarding speed. They're rewarding adaptability. They're rewarding businesses, for lack of a better term, that can learn faster, implement better, respond faster to customers' needs, because speed isn't your weakness. Because being small isn't your weakness. Being small is your maneuverability in the marketplace. For example, you have a line of products that are not working well for whatever you're trying to achieve. You can decide to jettison those tomorrow when you're not worried about the giant sunk cost problem. You don't have to do all of that. When you combine that maneuverability with your size, you can outmaneuver, outplan a company that's 100, 1,000 times your size. And you combine that with the AI, you can outmove these companies that are massive compared to you. You think they have all these advantages. Now, before I go any further into this, I do want to caution you because I sound like a lot of the hype stuff you're going to hear right now. So one of the challenges that you're going to hear, and I want to call out what I consider the elephant in the room, the 800-pound gorilla. It's actually probably more like the dinosaur in the room, is there's just an awful lot of nonsense in the market right now about AI. The hype machine is on overdrive. It is literally being cranked up to 11, to crib from Spinal Tap, in a way that is making it hard for you as a small company to decide what's real and what's not. People are selling their prompt packets like they discovered fire. They're repackaging stuff that they bought from somebody else like it's a proprietary thing. They're promising magic when all they really have is a landing page and a lot of confidence. Look, I'm not out there saying there aren't good tools. That there absolutely are. There absolutely are a ton of great tools out there. And I'm not saying that people aren't building useful things. They absolutely are. But there's also a lot of AI theater that's going on right now. A lot of it's performative to get clicks or views on social media. And what founders need is not theater. They need clarity, leverage, and guidance. You need to be able to see the road ahead of you. You need to be able to leverage your assets, the things that make you special in the marketplace. And you need guidance to decide which way you're going to go. And so I want to start off with the most practical advice I can give you in your business. And for any listener out there right now, the most practical first piece of information I can give you is stop relying on the free versions of stuff. I've said in multiple episodes that if something is free, you are not their client. You are the product. Just stop doing that. There are lots of places to cut costs in your business. This is absolutely not one of them. When you're trying to run like meaningful business workflows on the free versions of AI, you are literally asking, if I gave you the assignment and said, I want you to go in the backyard and dig a hole, you could use your hands. And all of a sudden your friend comes out in the backyard and says, I found this spoon. We could dig a hole much better with this. And you're like, oh man, that's great. I'm not getting dirt on my fingernails now. But the reality of it is that is at best what you were using with the free version of AI. You were using an inadequate tool. And in many cases, what you don't realize is because they gave you that spoon, they're also selling your mailing list. They're also data mining all your proprietary knowledge. They're training the next model. They sold you to 5 other people. Oh, and here's more what we can sell you on after that. The reality of it is just upgrade. Pay the $50, $100, $200 a month, whatever it is for the AI tools you want to use. Those are like the equivalent of using like a steam shovel as opposed to a spoon. They're like hiring a really good tool. And just because it can be done does not make it smart. If you're using the wrong tool for a job, I will never, ever tell you, man, that was a really smart thing to do. You saved $50. Good job. You could have been $5,000, $50,000, $500,000 more successful had you not decided to use the wrong tool for the job. Yes, you can dig a hole with a rake. I'm not going to look at you and applaud you for it. You're using the wrong tool for the job. You need to treat AI like it's infrastructure. If it's handling your leads, it's helping you do your proposals, it's helping you get stuff to marketplace, then it is not playtime. It's not entertainment. It is infrastructure. And you need to treat it like infrastructure. And the next thing I want to give you is I want to give you a mindset. Now, this is something I've seen to be a problem with a lot of businesses that I've done consulting work, et cetera, is that because of the hype channel and what's happening right now, there's a lot of CEOs at corporations right now who think that you can do all the things in the world with this. They'll come in and say, what, can't you just do this with AI? They are so far away from understanding the tools that they make requests of you that you can't possibly begin to solve. I want to talk to you about the cardboard box. When you were like 5 years old and you went outside, and if you got a refrigerator box, like you found an old refrigerator box at the curb, you pulled that refrigerator box back up to your house and you could draw on it with crayons and stuff. That refrigerator box was like a teleportation machine. It was a lemonade stand. It was a rocket ship. I want you to approach the artificial intelligence tools with a sense of childlike wonder that you used to have when you were 5, before you got rigid and calcified and poured into some kind of concrete mold and learned you lost what made you magical about being 5. The thing with AI is it does let you imagine a future that is probably not tied to anything now. And I think that's one of the most important things you can do is stop thinking about the way you did this before. Stop looking for the perfect workflow, the perfect prompt, the perfect system, the perfect answer. None of this stuff is perfect. It's all kind of an imperfect system right now today and anything you do. And if you get to out there, you need to play with the tools and find out what works for you and what doesn't. If you play with a broken toy, if you don't enjoy it, throw it away. And that's not how these systems work. You need to approach this like you did if you were a kid again. I think kids are one of the most amazing things in the world right now. If you could ask them what they would do, they're going to come up with some crazy ideas you can't possibly do with AI, but they also might point you in direction that you hadn't thought about before. The next thing I want to talk about, and I've talked about this in some other episodes before, is friction in your business. Right now, Silicon Valley is selling you on the frictionless business. You need no friction in your business, no friction between you and the customers, anything else you're doing, no friction ever. And that doesn't work. Right? See, what it comes down to is that friction is really, really important for your business. Friction is the reason that cars can go, but more importantly, it is the reason why cars stop. The phrase is just way too simplistic. It doesn't work that way. Friction is not always bad. It's important to stop the things that are moving. Your goal is not to stop the friction. You want to stop the friction that wastes your time. You want to stop the friction that slows down your revenue. You want to stop the friction that causes, I don't know, that causes your leads to fall in the cracks and you realize you didn't call someone back for a year. And then you say, hey, well, what happened? They're like, you never got back in touch with me. And you're like, I don't know what happened is. That's friction in your business. Friction that turns interest from a client into delay into not making a decision. It makes you work harder than you need to be. And this is where AI can really become powerful. If a lead comes in and no one responds to it quickly, that is friction. Your chance of closing it declines. And there's 100 examples I could give on this. It's really important. But what AI does when you use it correctly, it helps you remove useless friction without removing the control. And that is the game you need to be playing. So let me connect with something that anybody listening to this podcast understand. If you run a company, you understand that speed matters. You understand, this is just an example, you understand that one of the most important things you'd be able to do is make sure you're the first proposal they see. Generally speaking in business, the first and last proposal have the highest chance of closing. You know, the first proposal, first thing they see. You can make a good example. If they're really, really time sensitive, they'll go with that, especially if the competitors are slower to getting proposals out the door. The other one that they do is the last proposal they see, right? Well, if you think about it, that just makes sense. But the last one they see has this recency bias. You've seen it more recently in your memory. You're more likely to go with that one because you happen to see it. But you can't control being the last proposal. You can potentially be the first, and you can do that every time. And that's where AI really can help you. You can speed things up, and it really changes what I call time to impact, because that's the most important thing you can do. Now, what I want to talk about is when you're implementing AI in your businesses. I've talked about this a little bit. There's a quick wins matrix. We'll put a link below the pods. I've actually got an AI generated system to help you generate a list of items in your business that can help you figure out where the quick wins are for you. So the quick wins, if you listen to my episodes before, I'm a big fan of what's called the Eisenhower matrices. The idea with it is you have things that take high or low effort, and you have things that are high and low impact. And really where you want to be spending your time is you want to be spending your time on low effort, high impact items, what are called quick wins. Those are what you should always clean up first. And so the challenge with it is that a lot of people are trying to figure out what that is in AI. So just to give you some ideas is that, kind of quick wins in the artificial intelligence category are like meeting summaries, follow-up emails, proposal first drafts, a way to have a way to quickly respond to missed calls. Where you can get in trouble are what are called high effort, low impact items, which are called distractions. And those are like overbuilt chatbots, fully autonomous sales systems. None of these things really exist yet. And plus the time to impact is really, really slow. If you want to implement some changes in your business today, you want to go ahead and enter them today, not 20 days from now. The idea is to kind of figure out what you're trying to do to achieve the outcomes you want with as low effort as possible. Now, eventually you're going to tackle some high impact, high effort things, which do take a lot of time. And those for most startups and founders are kind of next stage things in your business. They're things you look at later to applying artificial intelligence to. But as far as being fast and responding in a timely way, you want to look at those quick wins things. There's also some what we call low effort, low impact things. Sometimes those are easy to do now with artificial intelligence. Maybe captions for social media or something like that you want to do. But remember, if it's all easy, then everyone would do it. So the next thing I want to talk about is two things when we talk about where you do need to introduce friction in your business. I have for a long time been a big proponent on human in the loop, which also creates bottlenecks. Now, by the way, 2 years ago, you wouldn't call these bottlenecks because you'd still think it was magical. Just being in the loop, you were still getting more work done. Human in the loop means that you are the person who gets to review everything before it goes out the door. The next one, which we've moved into more because of military type environments, is what's called human on the loop. That means AI runs and a human oversees it. Basically, it's a way to look at stuff. It's very reactionary. And so the challenge with human on the loop is that usually if something goes wrong, you have to respond to it after it breaks. Now, I think you need to start breaking your company down into things that you need a human in the loop on versus a human on the loop. The example I always give is, would you hire an intern the first day on the job and ask them, would you give them access to your books and your bank accounts and everything else? The answer is no. You would definitely, and I don't even know if you'd even let them see that. But people are doing that right now with artificial intelligence. And sometimes when I hear about this, I'm like, have you really thought this through? So, but I do think with the human in the loop, I still think you need to figure out where you need to put friction in your business. And the answer I always give on this is, or the example I give is that of a Formula One race car. Now, I've given this before in pods. The answer is that Formula One race cars have the most expensive braking system ever devised by human beings on the planet. They cost like $200,000 per race car they put them on. But the reason they put them on cars is they can literally head 200 miles an hour into a tight corner and they can stop on a dime. They do this because they understand that those braking systems are very important to make sure you don't destroy the thing. They allow you to actually move at a higher rate of speed. Let me repeat that. Brakes create speed. It's counterintuitive, but the reality of it is you can stop very quickly. You can afford to go much faster, period. So what you want to do is you want to figure out, how do you do that? How do you figure out where to put brakes on things? Now, I am an attorney, and a lot of times people will say, oh, you're an attorney, you just want me to be afraid of everything. No. I want you to go really, really, really fast. Remember, I said being small is your superpower. Your speed is a massive competitive advantage because you can go fast and because you have the right braking systems. This is policies, procedure, the guardrails on different things in your business. The reason you want that is because AI can make mistakes. And as a small business, it's harder for you to recover from a mistake that it made to recover. You've heard of them as called hallucinations. By the way, I hate this term for AIs. It's really what we would consider to be a confabulation. The AI actually believes it to be true. It's not just that they made up something. Hallucination, I guess technically you look at a hallucination, you say, oh, I made that up. But a lot of times people don't realize that. The AIs absolutely believe it to be true. Even if you show them the thing that they made up and prove them it's not true, they believe it. It's not because the system's trying to deceive you. It really does believe that answer, likely based on predictions from the way it was trained. So, but the AI will never understand your business like you do. It never will understand your business like you do, ever. So if you use an AI in a place where accuracy and trust matter, money matters, risk matters, you have to verify everything it does. Now, the next thing I want to tell you is, this is the attorney section of anything when I talk to people. One of the challenges is that do not feed your special sauce into publicly available artificial intelligence. In many cases, it is training its systems on these models, and then based on a court case called USPS Hepner, a few weeks ago, it's very possible that that's discoverable in a court of law. It's not necessarily just secret. So if you have like a trade secret, a client list, or anything like that, sensitive financials, personally identifiable information, anything that would violate GDPR or HIPAA, do not put that in those systems. It's a massive thing that gives you an edge, and don't casually dump that into any system. When I talk about time and money, it's not just money. That's more than money. It's the treasure of your business. It's the thing that gives you your competitive advantage. Do not put those in those public systems, because when you do that, you have literally given it away to other people. And I want to make this really simple when I go through this. Looking at this, you want to think about what you would remove from your business tomorrow. One bottleneck: time and money. What does it look like? What is the one thing I would put time into? And the answer is, you want to pick one thing that you can pick in your business. That is basically a way of removing a bottleneck from what you're doing. And it has a domino effect. So the follow-on effect on this is that if you remove one thing that is a bottleneck to your business, it will have additive and even multiplicative effects. So it means it'll add on itself and it'll get better and better and better. It's like a domino that goes out and branches out to 2 to 4 things, etc. Find one place where friction is eating your time. Find one place where delays are costing you money. So it's time, money. Find one place that repetition is draining your energy. That's another thing. Again, that's kind of like your money. It's like your mental piggy bank. And find one place that speed will let you win. And that's where you should go after right now in the quick wins for AI. Maybe it's proposals. Maybe it's in lead follow-up. Maybe it's in responding to the clients. Maybe it's meeting notes. Maybe it's literally giving a summary back to the client. You're in a meeting with a client and you tell them, hey, don't worry about taking notes. I've got this covered. I'll send you a summary after the meeting. You can just pay attention. And that way I get your full attention and you can ask questions right now so we don't miss something. But pick one and fix that first. Measure the gains you make on that, because as you see gains and it's measurable, it'll inspire you to fix more. Then repeat it. This is how small businesses compete in this environment. It's not by becoming a giant company. It's by becoming a faster company. Because here's the thing to realize. Those cargo ships will turn around eventually. They will absolutely find a way. And the big companies will catch up eventually. They'll hire consultants. They'll run the pilots. They'll form committees. And 6 months later, they show up. But right now, they are still slow. The surprising thing about big companies right now is how few of those companies have actually managed to implement artificial intelligence initiatives at scale. They are still at this moment very slow, and you are still very, very fast. So don't apologize for being small. Use it. Use it to your advantage. Use your speed, your flexibility, how close you are to the customer. Use your speed and decide and move. Use the AI as an associative. Use the AI as a way to remove drag, but use your judgment to keep control of where you're going. And use this moment in time while the market is still shifting. Because the market, it don't always reward the biggest competitors. It rewards the fastest, the most adaptable. And in an age of AI, that can be you. So that is why small is fast and fast wins. And that is why AI can give you an advantage, and being small is truly your superpower in 2026. I hope you found this to be useful. If you'd like to use the quick wins assessment that we created, it's free for anybody who's use this podcast. You'll see the links below the show in the show notes, so you can go test that out for yourself and let us know what you think. So for those of you who are small businesses out there listening to this podcast, remember, it's not a disadvantage. It's a real strength right now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Buck Stops Here. I'd like you to go out there, pick one bottleneck today, get rid of it, and move forward using AI to your advantage. Again, I'm David Maples. It's been my pleasure to be here today with you. And go out there, do good work, and have a great week.